Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are continuing our review discussion of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. My friends from the Sheikah Squad, Tyler Townsend, Edible Incredible, Newborn Killick, and Nehru join me once again for a second half of the discussion focused all around story. So I hope you guys are excited to hear what we have to say, and without further ado, let's jump back in. Okay, so story. Let's get into story because everyone's probably been waiting for that. Okay. Let's start with the cutscenes, because that's a big part of the story, right? The story is told through cutscenes in this game. We have a lot more than we saw in Breath of the Wild, and I don't know if it's just me. I feel like it's not, but the quality in these cutscenes have been just amplified so much from what we saw in Breath of the Wild. So much more action in a lot of scenes, and just like overall better everything, like better performances from the actors, better animation. Just like, I feel like it was a huge step up. Do you guys agree?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. The visual storytelling, especially, just like on like some of the small stuff, like this is kind of jumping late into the story, but like I talk about this scene a lot because it's my favorite one in the game. When Zelda awakens her powers, just like these subtle like body language type things, and like Link just throwing his head back, like telling Impa to get her out of here while he fends off and like, you know, holds off the blights so they can get away. Like, there's so much that they do in these cutscenes and in this game in general that's just small little details that really adds to the emotion and impact in the scenes that they're playing out.
Amen. Yeah. Just like thinking of certain moments, like he did, like emotional moments. And of course, I mean, I guess Keelik is in for this now, you know, spoiler territory. You know, into
Buckle up, Keelik.
You're good.
Okay. So of course with the whole king thing, you know, I for one didn't think he was playable because we thought he died, and then the whole moment, like seeing him again in the Temple of Time, just like it's just like straight from an anime almost. It just felt really good, and you can go.
I can't believe you didn't tag your spoilers. I am unsubscribing.
We did, though. You just can't see the editing.
Oh, that's true. Keelik is the only one that can't see it beforehand.
But yeah, so I think that, in my opinion, the strong cutscene direction actually is part of the reason that I guess this is skipping ahead a bit, but the strong cutscene direction is actually one of the main reasons that I was okay with the main twist. Because those kind of twists 99.9% of the time really annoy me, but like, and I kind of knew it was coming because I read a couple leaks. I didn't know exactly what was coming, but I had a pretty good idea. Let's just say it didn't surprise me when it turned out it was all alternate dimension. And I was like preemptively annoyed going into it, but then like the first set of people I did was Sidon and Mifa and whoever.
I'm so glad you did that too, because Edible or Tyler, did you not do it in that order? Because
no, I
made a point of this in my Let's Play. I was like, man, I feel so sorry for the people that got to see Teba first.
Yeah. But like, no, seriously, I was and like when Terraco shot the beams up in the sky, I was like, I know what that's for. And I was just like so ready to be mad and annoyed and grumpy over it. But then like the moment that Sidon came diving out of the portal and was like, I will not let you take her, I just started crying. And I was like, okay,
nice.
I'm okay with it now.
Yeah, I unfortunately did Teba first.
Was the impact just not there? You're just like, okay, White Bird Man, bye-bye. I get it. Okay, see you later.
Who could give less of a about Teba? I'm sure there's a Teba stan watching who's just writing an angry comment right now.
Was it Teba first? I forget which one was it, Teba
Squad.
or
How
I
dare
think it was
you.
Raiju that I saw actually first. I think
You see Teba's arrows first, but then you see the other person before you actually see Teba.
Okay, it was still cool, but so like I actually got spoiled. I'm glad I didn't get spoiled for the king thing or things endgame. But for that moment, I actually got spoiled like for a comment, like it was like on a champion video like a year ago or something. Oh, you should redo this video now that we know the past champions. You can fight the old champions or whatever. It's like, okay, I know they're gonna be playable, so I kind of knew beforehand. Regardless, it wasn't the biggest deal. But,
yeah, I muted my comments for like 2 weeks leading
I
up
should have strayed. That's
game.
only my fault. Yeah.
My comments are nice to me, aren't you guys? Yeah.
Oh.
I seriously do think that the strong cutscene direction is a big part of the reason why I was so happy with, like, so okay with the twist. Because it's like, I don't know, the fact that all the Descendants just like Deus ex machina'd into existence to save the day at the last minute should annoy me. But it's like those scenes where Urbosa is teaching Riju how to be a leader were just like so insanely adorable. I'm like, I am physically incapable of not being happy with this.
The only one that I had like that had like no impact in my opinion was like the Daruk Yonobo one.
I actually
Like-
was even won over by that one.
See, I like and I know that's
Now-
weird saying the Teba one, but I like the fact that Teba got to see that his idol was this asshole, and he was like
All right,
reevaluating
all right.
his life decisions.
Okay, back to Yonobo for a second, because I have a piece to say on this.
Okay.
I'm not a
Yeah, I
Yonobo
don't know.
fan. I'm not a Yonobo fan, okay? But I don't know if you guys remember, but in Breath of the Wild, he's the only one that actually gets to see his descendant. He sees Daruk. He can see the ghost. So when they actually got to me, I actually liked that moment, because I was like, wow, like this actually has an impact, because he knows Daruk in a sense that he actually got to see him at some point.
Interesting.
That's a good
So
point.
I liked that.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Well,
Also-
technically, Sidon has seen Mifa.
Well, yeah, true. You get what I'm saying, though.
Sure.
You know, dead Daruk.
Facts
Yeah,
don't
it
go
does-
with your feelings, you know.
It does bum me out that Sidon goes back to his timeline knowing that he's never going to see his sister again.
But
Yeah,
he did create
but-
a timeline for the other Sidon where he gets to
He
grow up
did.
with his sister, so that's pretty wholesome if you ask me.
That's
True
just
that.
that's just the kind of upstanding guy Sidon is.
He's not
should
the
put-
kind to
yeah.
go kill the other Sidon and just live in this world.
Take his place.
Okay, so back to Revali for a second. That scene with Teba is great, but I think we need to do just a moment here, moment of Revali. Let's talk about how great he is in this game.
Oh, he's the
because
worst. He's an idiot.
That whole section in Rito Village where you go up and you have the boss fight with him. One of my favorite cutscenes. Just like the animation there, and just like that fight, the swelling music. He has the best music in the game, by the way.
Oh, his
It's
theme.
amazing.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
No. No, it's Sidon and
That one's good too.
It's-
by a
that one's
country
good,
by
yeah.
a country mile.
Oh.
He sounds so
Well,
sad.
you can't say the cutscene is not bad. You can't say that was not hype.
It was fun to watch. I wish that Link would have killed him. But
Oh,
Okay, no. Okay,
Well,
go back, listen to my Let's Play. If Zelda hadn't stopped that fight, Link would have been dead. Okay, Revali was gonna win that.
yeah, you wish. Here, I'll tell you why that cutscene kind of disappointed me a little bit. It did look cool, but one of the few things that's actually made me warm up to Revali a little bit was reading his diary and learning about how at first he actually did try to be nice to Link and try to be kind to Link, but it was Link's cold shoulderness that actually made Revali be such a to him. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, it adds some depth to his personality. He's not just he's an because he feels like Link is being arrogant. And then they just removed that entirely from Age of Calamity because they wanted a cool fight scene. And I was like, oh, well, there goes like the only part of Revali that I thought was cool.
You know something really interesting though that I heard recently, actually watching one of the interviews with Zelda Universe, and they're doing all these voice actor interviews, right? They did one with Sean Chiplock, which is the voice actor for Revali, and he went into how he views the whole situation. And I loved how he said this, because he said, basically, the whole point of Revali is he doesn't trust Link, and he's mad that everyone all of a sudden is just welcoming this lowly knight that just, like, Revali's been training his whole life for this kind of stuff. Like, he was training Revali's Gale for years and all that, and he is a great warrior, but Link just kind of shows up out of nowhere to him, and he's like, why is this the chosen hero? And that's just the way that he said it, and I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a great way to look at it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess that's just my problem with Revali's personality, because it's like, especially in Age of Calamity, Link does quite a whole hell of a lot to earn his place. And
Come on, he kills like 2 moblins. He kills 2 moblins, and the king is like, okay, we got a moblin slayer on our hands.
I don't see Revali throwing himself in front of Guardians to save Princess Zelda. He's too busy flying around squawking to do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. we got to stop this before it turns ugly. Okay.
Let's turn into a debate.
Let's go into voice performances a little bit now, because that's it. That's a big thing with all this. We talked about cutscene direction, all that. Voice acting, big part of that. What'd you guys think? Who's your favorite voice character too? Do both.
Kohga. Kohga.
Let's go.
Kohga was so good.
Right answer. Right answer.
Kohga from the trailers was very good.
Urbosa.
Oh, it's tough. Urbosa's great. Revali is great.
3 best ones in the game.
I feel like literally everyone stepped up the game though. Like even the new people
How do you
did
guys-
really good. Like Kohga and Astor, I think they did incredible.
Oh yeah.
And
I was about to
then
bring up Astor, yeah.
yeah. And then just even the champions did better as well. I feel like Daruk and Mifa had better performances than they did in Breath of the Wild. And Urbosa and Revali, who were already great, just stepped it up even more.
I will say
Yeah.
though, I love seeing. I forget which cutscene it was, but just seeing them all interact together is great. I think.
Yeah.
It was, oh yeah, it was the
Yeah,
one.
then
With,
just hanging out.
yeah, oh, totally.
I wish
I
we
love
would-
those moments, yeah.
I wish we would have got more of them.
Oh yeah, I agree. But like the one with Impa with the robot and they're like fighting with each other or whatever, and then at the very end, Revali just flies away, just asinine or whatever he says. It's like that was just perfect. Like that's how he would react and how he would probably react in that moment. It just felt right.
hmm
It was good.
I will bring up, nobody mentioned Robbie. I think Robbie did an excellent job. Like his voice.
Yeah.
Robbie
Yeah.
and Pura both did a great job as well.
Yeah.
Sadly, I actually really didn't like Impa's English voice.
Oh, really?
I wasn't like super
Yeah.
into it either. It was like, it wasn't bad, but it was just like, I don't know. I didn't have strong opinions towards it.
Now, did you
I
guys
don't
know
know,
that it's the exact same character that voiced old Impa in Breath of the Wild? The exact same person, yeah.
I figured it was.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
I'm glad they did that because I was curious. I just didn't put forth the effort to look into it.
Which is funny.
I
'cause
saw that and I was
li-
like, yeah.
I like old Impa's voice, but I just don't like her voice for young Impa. I don't know. It just kind of sounds annoying. Not annoying. That's a mean thing to say, and it's not how I feel. But it's I don't know. It's just not how I would.
You would envision it, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
I love her Japanese voice actor. I love her Japanese voice actor a lot.
I love when
so-
she's goofy, though. I think she nails those goofy moments where she's like playing around with Terako, or like when she's trying to brighten the mood and Zelda's like, oh, I'm a terrible failure. And she's like, oh, but let's go get something. I'm really hungry. Or something
Yeah.
like that. And just,
that was
I do
a
like those moments.
wonderful moment.
I don't know if this is a direction thing from them, but there was a lot of moments I felt like, especially in the first mission when the first tower activates and Impa's yelling for help. She just didn't sound very distressed. It was just like, "Hey, you, help!" And
Yeah.
she was like,
Sure.
like the cutscene that they were presenting was like she was about to die, which is also kind of weird because like she's this badass warrior.
Yeah, it's like she could have turned around and pressed the B button twice, and all the moblins
Yeah.
would be dead.
So there was some questionable things here and there. I know people like to harp on Patricia Somerset a lot. I don't think she did a terrible job by any means, but there was a lot of points in there where like her delivery sounded off.
Who did she voice? Is that Zelda?
Zelda.
Oh, I
that's
thought
Zelda.
Zelda was fantastic through the
Yeah,
entire
she's pretty
game.
good. I was already a person who didn't mind her in the first game, so
I actually couldn't. I didn't think of a single scene that I thought she was bad in Age of Calamity. I thought she was
I
really
like
There,
the whole-
yeah, maybe it's just me. There was just a couple. Like I definitely think she did a lot better job in this than in Breath of the Wild. Not that she did a bad job in Breath of the Wild either, because I actually like the British accent.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I
Unlike-
guess
Unlike
I
some
guess-
people.
I feel like
I didn't think
Um,
she did. I didn't think she did a bad job in Breath of the Wild either. So I guess I'm just a Patricia Somerset fan, even though I didn't
Yeah.
think she was.
I felt like she dropped the British accent more here than she did in Breath of the Wild, though. It felt like it was more subdued here,
Yeah.
which is interesting to
Yeah,
hear
I
you say that
agree.
you liked that, because I feel like there's less of it here.
Maybe that's why I felt like it was off in some places.
Ah, okay, that could be.
Speaking of Zelda, really quick, more so story-wise, I love how we get to see way more that how depressed she is and the evolution of her being like, yes, I can command these knights now. Like,
And how-
way
Yeah.
more. Oh,
How
yeah.
garbage her
Such a
father
good
is.
scene.
Sure, I probably don't think he's as garbage as You
He's
say,
the-
but I totally
he's the
understand
worst.
why.
He's the
It's
worst.
just one-dimensional, just like super strict on this one thing. It's like, all right, we get
Well,
it.
what's bad? What's bad is they redeemed him at the Temple of Time, right? And then there
He
was
didn't
that
deserve it.
heartbreaking Terrico scene where like you see the flashback of Zelda as a kid making Terrico, and then he takes
Oh,
Yeah, and
That's right.
Terrico was like the last thing she had to relate to her mother.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, come on, man. Like,
Guy can't take a hint.
No,
honestly, it's like, read the room.
he's like, oh, I'm the king. I'm gonna make you focus on something you've been trying and failing at for 20 years, instead of focusing on your hobby, which is the only thing that's actually helping towards this kingdom. Because I don't know
Nehru.
how to rule. Yeah.
Nehru, she
Yeah.
hasn't been alive 20 years.
She's been alive 100. And
Yeah,
17.
get it right.
Oh, it's hyperbole. It doesn't really matter.
um,
17 years.
I wasn't-
Thank you.
Would have been a huge surprise, but when they were doing those cutscenes, I really wish the camera did turn around and we get to see young Zelda. I mean, I'm not like I was expecting it at all. It would have been a huge surprise, but it was like
I would've-
so cool. Of course, they would have had to model it and all that extra work, but oh man.
Artists who are watching this video right now, you know where Twitter is. Put it on there. We know you have the skill and capability to do so. We
Can
want to
I-
see it.
Can I tell you guys a voice actor I was conflicted on?
Yes.
The voice actor for Sidon.
Oh, really?
I thought the cutscene with Mifa was amazing. I thought his voice delivery could not be better. Like I said, it made me start crying like a little baby. And I thought most of his dialogue in the actual cutscenes were pretty good, but I don't know what it is. All his dialogue that played in the battle and on the map was like really bad. I thought, like
I think it's the mixing.
yeah, maybe, but like his delivery too, like the dialogue that played when he had food, like when you fed him, I thought was like I cringed every time I heard it. And then the dialogue when you pick his missions out on the field, yeah, I don't know, all his non-cutscene dialogue I really cringed at.
You want to know something really interesting?
What's that?
So, again, I'm talking about the Zelda Universe interviews that they did with voice actors. Go watch them because they're amazing, all of them. I don't know who mentioned it, which interview it was in, but they said they brought up that the voice actor for Sidon was actually the voice director for the original Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
And the reason that they got a new voice director for this game was because they felt like they shouldn't have a character also being the voice director anymore. So they got a new voice director, and the voice director for Breath of the Wild became just a character, which is Sidon. And I just found that really interesting.
that's really interesting. Yeah.
So I know Xeno liked this character's voice sounded like. I'm curious what you guys think. Because I was kind of in the middle for Astor. How'd you guys like his voice performance, Tyler and Nader?
I loved it.
Loved it? Okay.
I wouldn't say conflicted. I think I lean more towards not liking it because like
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. Like his
His
delivery was good, but it's just like I kind of tire of the like maniacal like evil laughter trope.
Oh yeah, as a character, I can't stand Astor. I think he's insanely unoriginal and super
Right.
boring. You get like 6 Astors every new season of anime.
Yes.
But I thought his voice actor was phenomenal.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's a better argument for that then.
That
Now-
line he delivers when he's telling Kohga and Sooga that they're about to get killed. Oh man, I just rewatch that cutscene sometimes because he delivered that line so good.
Now, I'm on the total opposite side of this. I have been saying this forever now, basically. I love side villains in Zelda. I love them. Even the bad ones, I love them. So Astor, even though I can admit, he is woefully underused. And I wish he was used more, and I wish that we would see something more of him in Breath of the Wild 2. I don't think we will. Even though I did a whole video about what they could do with him in Breath of the Wild 2, I don't think they're going to do any of that. I loved his delivery. I really loved that.
Yeah.
I feel like he has some of the best moments in the game, and it's just so great to finally have a Zelda villain that you can hear and just they sound maniacal, I guess. I just loved hearing that for the first time.
Oh, you
In a
know, that's a
game?
good point. He's the
Yeah,
first villain to be voiced.
Well, him and Kohga, but Koga's
Yeah.
more of like a half villain.
Yeah.
But
The other team
yeah,
is
I loved Astor's delivery, and I loved that he was a side villain. Just wish they used him more. So yes, I do agree with you guys on that. Woefully underused, and motivation just I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. He felt like kind of a watered down Yuga to me.
Milk
That-
toast would be my word.
That is an
for him.
interesting way to put him. I know that like there was a lot of comparison to like Aghanim before like the game came out. Like he could be the fortune teller. Which, what do you guys think? Is he the fortune teller?
I
No,
think he is.
I don't think so.
Why do you say no?
I can see it. I mean, why not?
I don't think that he's the fortune teller. Because like what reason? Like number one, I think they probably would have hinted at it if it was true.
I mean, it's in his title, the fortune teller, prophet of doom, blah blah blah. I mean,
Does it
like in
literally
Japan,
Does it?
I think
literally
in
say
Japan it
fortune
actually
teller?
does say fortune teller. In Japan,
Well, if that's true, then I'll take my statement back. But I'd have to see that for myself because prophet of doom, prophets and fortune tellers are very different. So
It could also be not to completely throw out the Japanese translation, but a lot of times like one for one translations aren't always accurate. So
Yeah.
like it might be that might be what's implied, but it might be different words.
I feel like they want you to believe it, but they didn't want to go through the effort to actually like say this is how he did it, blah 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 blah, because then they'd have to explain why the heck they believed him and all that. So that's where I stand on it.
Resources probably just didn't have it. Not to say, I think. All right, so here, like, if he is the fortune teller, here's the easy way. He had a falling out with King Rhoam because King Rhoam is, King Rhoam.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that like to me he is very obviously a Gerudo.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't think that like I've heard the argument that the symbol being on his clothing doesn't mean that he's not that he's not a Gerudo, because I don't think that the Gerudo symbol is Ganondorf's is Calamity Ganon's symbol. It might be Breath of the Wild 2 Ganon's symbol, but Calamity Ganon doesn't use the Gerudo symbol really at all that I can think of.
Oh yeah, Calamity
Whatsoever.
Ganon's just
Yeah,
doesn't
like
really
the,
care.
the Gerudo
Spoopy-
symbol at that
spoopy goop.
point. Yeah, the Gerudo symbol at that point has been wholly reclaimed by the Gerudo. The only reason that the body in Breath of the Wild 2 has the earrings is because, he's a super old body. He was probably a Gerudo back in his life.
But see, even if he was a male Gerudo and everything, that would have been a really cool backstory that you could tell. Like we talked about this back in Tyler's discussion before the game came out. Edible brought it up, and I was like, yeah, that could be a really cool story to tell. Like, how did he get out of there? Because like they were like, there's not been a male Gerudo, so like maybe he was born, but they tried to hide it, and then like blah 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 blah. Tried
Yeah,
to kill him, but he got away. I don't know. That could have been a cool story to tell, but
one
no.
of my. It's not even really a problem because I think it was an okay decision, but I think it's very obvious that Zelda was the protagonist of Age of Calamity. Like I don't think
Yes.
there's any
I would
doubt
agree.
about that. And I do sometimes think that it's to a fault. A lot of the scenes feel very repetitive of her just feeling sorry for herself. Not that she doesn't have the right to. I'm very sympathetic to Zelda, but it did sort of feel like those scenes could have been allocated to somebody else. Like I wish the champions would have got some more scenes. I wish Astor would have got some more scenes. I wish Robbie and Pura would have got some more scenes. So I do very much agree that I wish Astor should have got some more development.
Totally super overhyped. The way they presented him in that trailer made us speculate to hell, and then I was like, oh, he's kind of just one-dimensional, and he just wants to gain him back, and that's it. Yeah.
Poor
But-
Astor.
The only
Such
Zelda
potential.
game,
Yeah.
Zelda game brave enough to actually give their protagonist, their villain, a good backstory is Wind Waker. So
Facts.
what can I say?
Facts.
Oh, I guess
Sand?
Zant, yeah, Zant.
Yeah,
has
yeah,
a
Zant
pretty
Okay.
was pretty good.
It's
Twilight Princess.
It's,
I figured you were just ignoring that because it's Twilight Princess.
Yeah, me too. I was waiting. That's why I wasn't saying anything.
I was saying it to be a little baiting, but then I was like, Zant had a pretty good backstory. I can't lie.
Okay, sure.
So, just like plot-wise, any other big things stick out to you? Want to talk about anything?
I mean, there's the obvious stuff with like the time travel, but like I think I fall into the same category as Nehru on that, where it didn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
Like I like it was just enjoyable. I was waiting for a moment in this game where I didn't like the story and the direction that they took, and it never happened.
Yeah, and that's
So
the thing.
you wouldn't change anything. Like it's
Or-
perfect the way
I
it
would-
is.
I would leave King Rhoam dead because it would have more impact.
And he deserves it.
No, I want to play him.
I think I have strong opinions about everybody's favorite characters here.
Low key.
Oh.
And they're all wrong.
I feel like we haven't talked about Kohga enough, you know?
That's
I
right.
kind of
say,
agree.
I say
actually.
Revali's my favorite character, but Kohga is also just like
Oh.
went straight to the front of the line in this game. I liked him in Breath of the Wild, but now I love him to death, and I will never let go of him.
Yeah.
I do.
That scene where he's like, I don't mind. I love that scene so much.
So good.
That
man.
is maybe the best scene in the game.
I can't leave you. You're my best lackey.
Yeah, that was such a good scene too.
I will say
I will
that
say-
it's a little. Sorry, go ahead, Killer. You haven't spoken in a while.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, from someone who hasn't experienced, like, so obviously I've learned a lot about the game today.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, we had time travel, now we have parallel dimensions, and I'm like, does anything matter? But like, I would definitely, put like a spoiler on this. I mean, obviously you said spoiler, but like the spoiler, big spoiler, because that, like, when I was like, oh, alternate dimensions, cringe. Okay, like what? it seems like, from an outside perspective, without actually like experiencing the game itself, and that's totally on me, of course. Obviously, I probably still will experience it, but I can definitely see how that might throw some people off, especially with how much it was hyped up as like, this is canon, even though I don't know if it was actually ever explicitly stated that this game is canon.
It hasn't been.
No,
But,
but most
it's-
Zelda games don't specifically get stated about whether they're
Yeah.
canon
True.
or not.
I loved what you said in your video, Nehru. I did a whole video about it too. We both came to the same conclusion, basically, that we think it's canon.
Yeah. But we should hold off on that because I see you
Yeah.
have a whole section for that.
I don't agree, but we can continue.
One thing I wanted to say about the time travel thing is I don't understand why people are so worked up about the fact that it's time travel. Like, personally, I was more bummed out by the fact that we weren't getting the Calamity. That was what was making me sad, not necessarily the time travel. Because to me, to get worked up about time travel in a Zelda game is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like, I think more Zelda games have time travel in them than don't. Like, I can think of 5 Zelda games off the top of my head that have time travel in them. Like, I absolutely do not understand why people were so upset with the time travel thing. Maybe if someone
think
here is upset with it, you can lay it out to me.
I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm like upset about it. Obviously, Ocarina of Time being my favorite game, that would be just blow everyone out of the water with, yeah, I hate time travel, but love Ocarina of Time. I think it's not necessarily how it's used here necessarily, or like in this context exactly. It's just that when you start implementing like time travel or alternate dimensions, I'm not going to really go into that. Again, I haven't really experienced that part of the game myself. But speaking from like other media and other games, it kind of leaves the door open to it, like the game not mattering necessarily. And that's not really the right word that I'm looking for.
That's
Like,
kind of what I was
endless
going to go into.
retconning.
Yeah.
It makes the game feel a lot less necessary. Like, this is just a side story that was made for the purpose of, hey, we wanted to make another game in the Warriors genre, but also use the Breath of the Wild skin and everything. We were like, okay, cool, yeah. Oh, and you're going to make a focus on story this time and everything. Yeah, because they said that beforehand. They didn't say it was canon, but they said that there would be a focus on story. But if it's this time travel thing and it turns out that it doesn't really have an impact on anything, then what's the point?
I suppose
Right.
I find that a bit of a hard to agree with argument, because it's like, I would say the majority of the Zelda games, maybe not the majority, but at least half of the Zelda games don't really have an impact on other games in the series, and
That
I
is
still
true.
think they're all really
Fair.
wonderful. Like the Oracle games are my favorite 2D games, and I don't think they're ever even really mentioned again. Minish Cap has an important place in the lore, but that was only established after with the books that I'm drawing, the Historia. And I would never say that Minish Cap is a bad game, because until the Historia came out, it didn't really have an impact. And then, of course, like Majora's Mask doesn't have an impact at all. It's in its own parallel dimension that,
Alternate timelines all over the place.
Mhm.
yeah, according to the canon, disappears the moment that Link leaves it. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree that a game not having an impact on the series necessarily means it's pointless.
I feel like, my perspective here is that this is a game that was marketed as like a direct prequel in a sense.
that's what I was
which
gonna
I mean,
say.
you can see that in the art style and everything. I feel like it should be treated a little bit different from those games,
Yeah,
just because of the way that they marketed it like that, I guess.
I think it
Yeah.
is totally fair, and I said this in my videos over and over again. I think it is 150% fair to be really upset with the fact that Nintendo basically bamboozled us. Personally, I'm happy with the direction it went, but I don't think it can deny that. I don't think it can be denied that Nintendo basically lied. I'm just not really.
Never.
I mean, they didn't lie though. They said it was the events of 100 years ago. That's
Well,
what
they
we
also
got.
said that you'd experience the events of the Calamity, and the Calamity
Hey.
was averted. So
Did you not experience the events of the Great Calamity?
no, because the Calamity was averted.
No. But you did get to fight Calamity Ganon. You experienced the events of the Great Calamity
But the Calamity was averted.
because
That actually-
you got to fight it.
It's a
world-
lie at
really good,
a lie at worst, misleading at best.
Yeah, like, but that's my thing, right? Is like, it is a lot. Like, have any of you played Metal Gear Solid 2?
Only the beginning. I need to finish it.
I don't
Unfortunately.
think so.
Okay, so in Metal Gear Solid 2, they did something very, very, very similar. They marketed the game in a way that you were going to believe that you were going to be playing as Solid Snake for the, I guess, spoilers for a 10-year-old game, or 15-year-old, however old it is.
Oh no.
It was marketed in a way that you thought you were going to play as Solid Snake for the entire game, and people were very excited about that because Solid Snake's one of the most beloved video game characters. But then it turns out you only play as Solid Snake for the first couple hours, and then a big plot twist happens where you think Snake dies, and you end up playing as Raiden for the rest of the game. And people went through almost, like, if you look up old IGN or GameFAQs forum posts, the discourse surrounding Metal Gear Solid 2 is like identical to the discourse that was surrounding Age of Calamity after release. People were like, I wouldn't have bought this game if I knew this was how it was going to turn out, and stuff like that. And there are a lot of like pedantic arguments you can make to say that Konami didn't lie because they didn't specifically say you were going to play as only Solid Snake. But you know, it's all really noodly ways to get out of the fact that Nintendo advertised the game as a direct prequel, and then it turned into its own thing. That being said, I don't think that it's bad to lie. I think that if you are lying for the sake of a big plot twist, I think that's perfectly okay. I think it is lying. I think it is lying, and I don't think that can be denied. But I'm perfectly okay with being lied to for the sake of a good plot twist.
I go into this a lot in my video about if it's canon or not, but like I kind of see both sides here, because I'm like, yeah, I get that it's kind of scummy that they're out here saying things that might lead you to believe that this is going to be a direct prequel to Breath of the Wild and not some weird timeline branched split. But at the same time, I'm like, I am kind of happy they didn't tell us any of that, because then that made those moments when the champion Descendants appeared out of nowhere and everything just like that much more better.
I had a bunch of comments that were like, there's a way they could have advertised the game without giving away the plot twist. And I'm like, how?
No.
How?
No.
Explain to me. Explain to me how that happens. Like,
there's
there's,
so much stuff
We
they
show
would-
Sidon's feet, but who is it?
it'll make a section of the internet happy, but it won't be clear advertising.
But yeah, it opened so many doors, for them to do literally whatever. Like the prospect of that going into it, I didn't want. I wanted it to be canon. But looking back now, it's actually like, well, that's probably for the better.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
think
that's
it's
kind of like, so when you're making a game, there are very few games that are really successful, like mainstream games. Like I would say Zelda games are mainstream games that have these kind of like weird, crazy endings. Like, the ending, say, where the calamity isn't averted, and you just have to like watch as you get towards the end of the game, your essentially party or your group of people fail more and more. That would lead into all of this being canon. Kind of like we thought it was going to do before the game came out. We were like, this is going to be super sad.
Zelda Halo Reach.
Yeah, exactly. Survive. That's not really. It's hard for that to be a satisfying ending. So, we had thought maybe we'll have there's like a canon story or something, and then at some point that diverges, and then you get that happy ending at the end. So I think this is, the more I think about it, and just keeping an open mind about it as well, it's a way for them to deliver that kind of Hollywood ending in the game and kind of cap it off, wrap it up.
Mhm.
I personally think I would have been okay. I mean, again, I haven't played the game, just from what I've seen and heard, it leading 100% canonically into like the last thing that happens is Link dies. You know what I mean? Or
I'm the
quote
same
unquote
way.
dies.
I felt like
Okay.
that's one of the main things that I was like so upset about when I realized, oh shoot, this is not going to be the exact same thing that happens in Breath of the Wild, and I kept denying it to myself. You can go back and watch my Let's Play, and I keep saying, okay, there's still hope. There's still hope. Oh, okay, Sidon's here, but like, yeah, the champions can still die. And then I'm like, I finally realized it. I'm like, oh shoot, well now I'm not gonna get that tragic ending that I wanted to see, where we get to see Zelda break down in that forest and everything that led up to that, and then we get to see Link die, and we get to see the fall of the Hollow Citadel and all that. We don't
that
get
was
that.
a huge moment. That was when Zelda done. We're good. Like her powers awakened in that moment. That was like one of the most important moments in that entire game.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it just
And
doesn't happen.
You do technically see it at the beginning of the game.
That's true, yeah.
Oh man, that shot leading into it's so good. I love that. Like the cinematography
Yeah.
for the cutscenes. Ooh, pristine.
Yeah, no, it was it's like if I'm okay with the direction the story took, it ended up winning me over. And I don't think that its existence takes away from anything. Like, I think that there's something kind of nice about the fact that there's now a universe where the champions get to be happy, and there's a universe where the world goes to right. I do, like I said, I fully understand people who feel like they were lied to, and I'm very supportive of people who feel like they were lied to. I just don't think that it really matters that much. That being said, if I personally got to pick, I would have had the game just be a proper prequel, like straight through,
I
and
agree.
just have the modern characters be unlockables in a side mode. That's what I would have done, but the ending did end up winning me over.
The one thing that was tragic, really quick, that I guess did fulfill me was, of course, the king's that we thought was death. Even though it was like, it almost looked like he gave up, before we knew what actually happened with his little device or whatever that thing was. But we thought he died. Like, all right, let's run Zelda, and it's like, damn, that was tragic. I wasn't really expecting that. I wanted to see like the king's death, like in that one video I did. I wasn't fully on expecting it though, so at least that hit that part of it for me.
Yeah.
That definitely was a good moment, yeah. I feel like I'm kind of in the exact same boat as you, Nehru. Like, I enjoyed the story, won me over as well. But if I was to have to say myself, I would probably say that I'd want it to be the original story that we knew from Breath of the Wild. Then again, like, that's just a alternate reality that I don't have, and maybe if I had that reality, I'd think, oh shoot, I wish I had this reality instead that we're living in. So like, you never know. Maybe it would have been worse if it was that way, but like, just looking back on it, I long to see what we didn't have, I guess.
Did things a bit. That's the one thing, of course. I would, story-wise, if I could do it, I love Despair. But
yeah,
yeah,
despair is where it's at.
I agree. But we have all the champions we can play as now, and yada yada. So there's that.
I think
I will say that I think it really takes away from a story if like there's no consequences. But in like Age of Calamity, like it was kind of nice because like it's the flip side of a story where there was consequences. It's like you kind of get your cake and you get to eat it too, type thing. And it's like I can't remember who was saying it, but it's just like wow, I completely blanked. Never mind. Completely
sure
lost my trail of thought there.
Tyler, if you get it back, make sure you tell us.
Yeah.
It was just I was going to reiterate something somebody else said, so it wasn't even that important.
Speaking about, I guess, the story and kind of how things are going right now, and I guess gameplay to some extent as well, have they made any note of DLC for the game? Because that could be a way that they could give us a look into the other timeline, the one that we didn't get, do want.
Without
data mine.
Yeah, without spoiling anything for people who want to avoid data mines, there has been some data mine stuff that leads to the belief that there's going to be DLC.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, we don't know. It could have been unused content, maybe.
Sure.
But like, who knows?
Yeah,
It seems like
it's just
everyone
hard
happy.
to believe because Hyrule Warriors got so much
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, which
Really?
like you'd think it would be expected, but just to temper your expectations, I'd say possibility.
Does anybody know offhand how many copies of Age of Calamity have sold?
It was the best-selling Warriors game. I know that.
I know it was like 1 million in like or was it more than 1 million in like a week?
wow.
It was
wow.
good. It was good.
Yeah, it was the best-selling Warriors game, and the Warriors is Koei Tecmo's best-selling franchise. So
Yeah, that leads me to believe that there's definitely going to be DLC.
a lot of people are worried because it hasn't been announced, and the first Hyrule Warriors started getting updates and DLC pretty close. But I just urge people to remember that this game its marketing is almost completely being handled by Nintendo instead of by Koei like the first games was. So I imagine DLC will be announced when Nintendo wants it to be announced, not necessarily when Koei wants it to be announced.
Then again, I was throwing around an idea in my head for a while now, actually, that what if they held back on the DLC until after Breath of the Wild 2 and did something that kind of ties in with that? I don't know. Maybe that could work, maybe not. But maybe you could just do like an entirely different story that is just purchased as DLC that ties into Breath of the Wild 2 somehow. I don't know. But like that was just like a weird thought I had in the back of my head, so I thought I'd share it.
Like it would be kind of a hard sell to be like, hey, this game that we released 2 years ago, you want to buy DLC for it, even though we haven't touched it. Something they very well could do is like a small like free DLC mission that would kind of like maybe not even necessarily take place. Like, what if it was something that took place between Breath of the Wild 1 and Breath of the Wild 2? It would be weird for it to be in third game, but I mean, if it's free DLC, even if it's just a couple, missions or something, maybe it would be. I would assume they wouldn't let Zelda and Link be the first person or the first two people to explore that cave. So maybe someone goes in and clears out that area, and they find something like that. You know what I mean? Just something to kind of ease the transition between the two, but still.
You know what they could do? Is because at the end of Age of Calamity, the champions go back to their timeline, but then the DLC could be them returning to Breath of the Wild's timeline when Ganondorf is awakening and raising the castle or whatever, and then that be the bridge into it.
That would be cool, yeah.
That'd be juicy.
Here's a question. Do you guys think that the champions will remember what they did in the timeline of Age of Calamity? Or are we just going to say, time travel, can't remember that?
Well, I suppose this gets into your next bullet point, which is if the game is canon. Because if it's not canon, then no, they're not going to remember.
Now, I've said my take on it before, and I think it's this. I think it's canon, but I think that it is in its own separate timeline, as we kind of already know, and Nintendo doesn't have to do anything with that timeline, so it's kind of just going to sit there forever by itself.
I agree.
That sounds
Yeah,
fair.
I would.
Why not?
I would say canon asterisk.
I kind of like alternate realities, as opposed to some people probably, but it's fine.
They haven't given any like. They haven't given enough reason to say that it's not canon. I would say there's more leaning towards it being canon than not, honestly.
To me, it's canon until Nintendo says it isn't.
There's
And-
some.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, like I understand it's a bit of a different case, but in interviews for the first Hyrule Warriors, they straight up said, I don't have the exact quote on hand, but they straight up said this game is not part of the Zelda timeline, and that's not the case with Age of Calamity. They have never said that, so it is odd to me that they would be willing to be forthcoming with the first one and not the second one.
So this probably was just some person who believed it to not be canon and was trying to just tell me in the comments on my stream yesterday. They even I need to go back and look. It was like a 6-hour stream, geez. But they sent like a link. I was like, I want to see proof. I didn't check the links. I was streaming, of course. I need to go back. But I think they said was it Zelda Wiki? Or was like some interview. I was like, Zelda Wiki though, I don't know. I don't follow.
I do know that right now Zelda Wiki has it under a section where it says non-canon information, which I don't agree with.
Right, it's the wiki though. I think they said too that I guess somebody in an interview. I don't know. Like I said, my memory of this is terrible. But yeah,
I'm pretty on the pulse of Age of Calamity interviews. I have like a bunch of feeds set up to alert me when there's a new interview, and I haven't seen any new interviews in the last 2 weeks. So
that's a relief.
other
the
than the
wikis
voice
are
actor
all-
ones,
All kind of just community run for the most part, aren't they?
yeah, they know no better than us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of them probably do.
So basically, we'll never know.
It could just be damage control, because they'll probably get more flack for saying that it is canon than not.
And that's the whole point. If it is canon, it doesn't have to have a bearing on anything. You could say Astor and Sooga are now in the main timeline, because if they're in Age of Calamity, they should be in the main timeline, but they would be dead because it's 100 years. So,
Yeah.
maybe Suga's alive, which you could do something with him, maybe if you want to, but if not, just say he fell off the face of the earth. I don't know.
And it's like,
But continue.
no, you go, Adam.
No, that was it. I was just saying. I wish Sooga, whatever he say his name, was playable. The 2-sword stuff would have been hot. But continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that 2 things. Number one, I know people don't like the fact that it's canon, but I would just like to remind everybody that there is a canon kingdom in the world that Hyrule is in called Hytopia.
Oh my gosh, I love that place.
You're gonna bring it up, huh?
Yeah,
We're going
Fashion
here?
Kingdom.
Yeah, the Fashion Kingdom, in which everything is based around fashion puns. So the bar to which what is canon in the Zelda universe isn't
Very
exactly
low.
high. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I don't think Nintendo really cares about
Yeah,
what
they don't.
us fans think. If they want it to be canon, it'll be canon. If they don't want it to be canon, it won't be. If they just don't want to tell us, then they won't tell us.
I think it's really going to boil down to if we see any of these characters or plot elements of the champions remembering show up again in Breath of the Wild 2. That's really going to say whether or not people believe it's canon, and yeah.
I also believe we'll eventually get an interview where Aonuma is just asked.
I don't know. Well, I mean, yeah, they'll ask him. Maybe he'll skirt around it, because they're masters at that. You know that.
They really
Well,
are.
I think
It's
Aonuma,
just like the Breath of the Wild timeline placement whole thing. He's just gonna be like, I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell us.
the thing about Aonuma though that I actually really like about him is he's really good at giving non-answers that still have a little nugget to chew on in terms of discussion.
I mean, that's the whole point of the Zelda series.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think that when Aonuma is finally asked, he'll probably he'll probably avoid the question, but answer it in the way where he sort of gives us something to chew on in one direction or the other. That's what I think.
I could see that.
For sure. Okay, so I think we've said our piece on canon, I think. So Favorite moments in the story? Go.
Link pulling the Master Sword in the whole scene leading up to it, and Zelda awakening her sealing powers.
Those two are great. I love those two. It's hard. I have to really think about which one I like the best. It might be the one I said earlier, when the king and Zelda reunite, and also we thought his death was great too. Yeah, but I agree with yours as well. That's tough.
I have two favorites. One is like emotional. The other is funny. The Mipha and Sidon scene is probably my favorite moment in the entire game. And then in a close second place is Link trying to eat the rock snake.
That's a good
about
one.
that.
Yeah, that moment's just, oh man. Especially because that's a moment that they pulled directly out of the Creating a Champion book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love to see them. I love to see that they are big enough Nintendo, like big enough Zelda fans, that they mined this tiny moment that's specifically expanded on in Creating a Champion, and then translated it almost word for word from Creating a Champion into the game. That made me really happy.
That is beautiful.
Killick,
Killick,
what was
do
your?
you have any favorite moments from the demo?
Yeah,
or beyond the
three
demo
that you saw?
Do you have any favorite moments from beyond the demo?
Well, honestly, I have always been a huge fan of like counterattacking and stuff like that. So just the little bit of gameplay that I was able to experience, I love the kind of like little mini kind of what's what I'm looking for? Not quick time event. That's very negative, but like the kind of like little skill checks that you have. Say like an enemy was charging at you, boom, you use an ice block. I've always liked that kind of reactionary sort of play style.
Quick time event.
Also, running around naked and fighting guardians was fun too. So
That's also a highlight of the week. Yeah.
So just kind of, I guess, that moment.
That's when you know. That's when it hits you that this is going to be a masterpiece. I personally, for myself, I'd have to say Kohga's whole introduction scene at the Yiga clan hideout is pure gold. I love it.
So good.
I talked about the scene with Revali when you go into his boss fight. I loved that as well. Oh my gosh, so many great moments, The one with Mipha and Sidon, as Nehru already went into. And what was the last one I was going to say? Probably, I think the Master Sword as well. Those are my favorites.
There's
So, yeah.
so many cutscenes in this game, by the way. I love how you can watch
There
them over
are,
again,
like
in
over
Breath of the
2
Wild.
hours, I believe.
2.5. 2.5.
2.5, jeez.
Can I give an honorable mention to Link cutting Calamity Ganon in half?
Oh yeah, when he like just slashes his face. I love that. I wish we got
Added
to see more of that.
added to the collection of vicious Ganon murders by Link.
Yes.
Did you guys like
Yeah.
how Calamity Ganon looked in this one?
I loved it. I loved his
Yeah.
design.
I thought he looked kind of silly in Breath of the Wild. I think it looked a lot better
It
here.
was
You-
really cool
wait.
to see him without any Sheikah tech influence,
Hold up. You thought that the giant spider monster with the face of a demon looked silly?
I thought he looked really
It was
dorky.
definitely different.
I liked it a lot.
I was scared to death.
Yeah, it was creepy as hell.
It just didn't hit it for me.
And the
It
whole
didn't
thing
either.
was that the entirety of Breath of the Wild, I was staying away from that. I was like, I don't want to see what Ganon looks like. I was dodging the internet the entire time.
I was
And
so hyped.
I go up, I see this cocoon thing. He drops down, and I see his face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is
Yeah, that
this?
was great. I was half expecting Ganondorf or just wanting it to be Ganondorf, but
Same.
no, I did like that first phase. It was beautifully disgusting.
I was just
First
like,
phase
eh.
is better than second phase, honestly.
For sure.
Not.
I was just
It's
like,
just
Gama's
boring.
cooler.
The Goma was great, of course.
Yeah.
I wish Goma was
Arma
the final
Goma.
boss.
Armageddon.
Goma returned.
Goma needs to be the new final boss. We
Goma
get-
has like intellect, starts talking. Oh, shit.
Breath of the Wild 2 opens up and Goma eats Ganon's corpse.
Please. How do
just-
you have
No,
Hyrule?
he just he pinchers his head off and then eats it.
Excuse me, Goma is a she.
It's a malice Goma. That's the whole thing.
Malice
The-
Goma.
As a
Oh,
malice
man.
Goma.
Could you imagine?
How do we have a game that's literally titled something of the wild and not have like Skulltulas and like Gomas running around in this like reclaimed by the wilderness land?
That
I
is kind of
imagine-
weird.
I
Solid
imagine
point.
you're pretty happy that there aren't. Tyler?
As fearful as I am of spiders, I really like fighting. I like fighting the gomas. Maybe that's like my own weird therapeutic way of like getting revenge on spiders, but I don't know.
Goma's my favorite Zelda.
Look up
boss.
realistic Skulltrola and you'll change your mind.
Oh, no.
I've seen that. It's not pleasant. I don't like
It's
it.
not pleasant at all.
Okay, so I think that brings us to about the end of our discussion. Now we just have miscellaneous thoughts. Anybody have any? I have one.
There's one little thing. It's a minor gripe. So at the very end, so like I was saying earlier, I played on hard mode, and I don't expect them to do this because it's kind of going out of their way to implement this. It's this tiny thing I would love. So I first played through on co-op of the final mission, and I got to, it wasn't Calamity Ganon, it was the robot first, and then I didn't have much health at all. So we decided to like not finish it. So like once you die, you just go back to where you last defeated a boss. And I wish you at least had an option, like where you want to, maybe like a couple bosses ago when I had more health. That'd be great. So last night when I was playing through, I got the Ganon, I actually stocked up on the apple meter, I guess I'll call it, before the mission, because at first I was getting wrecked. Came back with the full apple meter, got to the end, and when I was fighting Astor, I kind of kept letting him kill me just because I didn't want to beat him without having much health. I ended up just keep going anyway because I still had a full apple meter. So I had a good amount going in Ganon, but after the first phase of Ganon, before you fall down, he kind of hurt me a little bit. So I was thinking if I died, I'd start over the whole fight. But if you die, you start over half of the fight. So half of the fight I only had 4 hearts. So like that second half took me a while to get through with 4 hearts. Minor complaint. I liked the challenge and it was
That's fair.
gratifying to finally slay him. But I did kind of wish they give you maybe at least an option where you want to spawn back if you're screwed with health and don't want to do the full final mission again, which had like 7 bosses or something ridiculous.
I think I had the exact same problem with one of the blights. I got to a certain phase of it and I was like really low on hearts and I had to just restart the entire thing.
Right. Minor
Yeah,
complaint, but yeah.
that would be cool. I really loved the credits scene. I thought that was a really nice little montage where it had all the cartoon people. It warmed my heart to see Teriko and Impa finally get along.
Which
And
this
I don't
is the final, like the secret ending, whatever the heck one, right?
Yeah, where it showed the little cartoon montage of Teriko.
Like the loading screen
Yeah.
art style type thing.
Yeah, and like
That is
I don't know,
amazing.
it kind of seemed like a bit of a hint that Sooga might still be alive. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So speaking of Sooga, that was my miscellaneous thing I wanted to talk about because we barely mentioned him and he's amazing.
Yes.
I feel like he's just as good, almost just as good. Can't say just as good as Kohga in this game. And was anyone else had like a huge mislead on his voice at the very beginning, thanks to the trailers?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the I don't mind part was
Because
coming
that
from
was
him.
actually Kohga, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is this? What I like it, but what is this?
Especially because that voice is very un-Koga-y.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
his
it was
actual
very
voice-
different.
His actual voice is pretty good too. So
Pretty good. I thought it was amazing.
Not the Kohga. We must
agreed. It was Kohga and Sooga, and that's the reason why I kind of do hope a little bit that Age of Calamity is canon, because I would love to see Sooga. I would love to see more of Sooga.
I would as well. Yeah.
Yeah. He was
Sooga-
great. Honestly, I know you won't like this, Xeno, but I think I liked Sooga or whatever his name is more than Kohga. But yeah.
I can't fault you for that because I just he's also really good.
Okay.
Other miscellaneous thing, the motion controls were terrible in this game.
Oh my god, I
gosh.
forgot.
Oh,
What a
so
terrible
everyone repressed
decision.
that. I see.
Okay.
Which is
So-
a shame because of how good they were in Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
I
Oh my
I
God.
still like using them with the bow and arrow, but when you go into those Divine Beast missions, oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about those.
Atrocious.
Yeah,
They're not
just in
important. Don't worry about it.
general, they're not good. But
I actually
like
really liked
with-
the missions. I just switched
with the
them off
motion controls, I don't like them. I mean, they're okay missions, but the frame rate is just non-existent at some points.
Also,
Yeah.
in any of the Divine Metal ones, when you remotely like miss one thing, you have to circle back around. and pray that you get it the next time. And then if you don't, then oh my, it's just cumbersome.
I think the main reason that I loved those missions, I thought the gameplay was pretty fun. I love controlling giant robots, so I guess I'm kind of biased. But the main reason I liked those missions is because that's where you got most of the interaction between the Descendants and the Champions. Like in the side missions, that's where you got most of their interactions if you paid attention to the little dialogue boxes that popped up. Yeah.
I would say I didn't like those missions as much, but I did like, I think it was what Tyler said. The Valmeta one was great. The other ones, though, not so much.
The Valmeta one was a lot of fun.
Now, I feel like part of why I didn't like them is actually the exact same reason you said, Nehru, because they put all those interactions in with them and everything, and it was just part of the same level that you already fought the Blights in, and I felt like it was a bit bloated, those levels, because you just had so much to do, because it took me forever to beat the Blights, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. But no, I had to go straight into also fighting with the Divine Beast, and I'm like, you could have made this 2 separate levels. That was what I was thinking, especially because I was recording and it was getting very warm in the room, and I was just like, I was so done with it. It was like a furnace in here, and I was like, oh, just let me out.
Yeah, I could see those levels being tedious if you're like kind of at the end of your play session. But like I really enjoyed doing. I did all the side missions involving more Divine Beast trips. I found them all pretty. The only one I didn't like was Vanda Boris. I found her super boring.
Oh, you didn't like the one where you just killed like 40,000 different bokoblins in Hyrule Field? I love that one.
And it's like your only special ability is to gallop a little bit. I don't know. It was kind of boring to me.
Oh. See, I love that one. I just love mass destruction, you know?
That's fair. I liked Varudanya because you could like go anywhere. There weren't really any boundaries for you. You could just walk over all the mountains. It was pretty fun.
Which one? The one on Death Mountain or the one like?
Both of them really don't really have limitations because you can just climb up everything. But I was specifically referring to the second one where you're in the open field.
See, that's my least favorite one because the frame rate died on me there. I swear it was like 1 frame per second.
That's fair.
I feel like you could cut all of those missions out of the game and it would be better for it.
Maybe, yeah.
I guess I just disagree. I would be a little sad if they weren't there.
I had a little bit of fun with them, but just not really my thing, I guess.
I guess it was my fault for choosing motion controls.
Yeah, I turned them off immediately.
Yeah. Once I started figuring out how to do it without those, it was a lot better, too. Just like, it was a perfect storm of terrible things happening in those missions that made me hate them. The gameplay was kind of fun, but just like everything else around it was not great for me.
The one thing I didn't like about those is when you use your super beam or whatever it is, like your big charge beam, and you shoot the Blights with them, it just goes right through them. I was like, that looks super amateur. Like there's no splash damage or anything. The beam just phases through them.
Here's
a good question for you guys that might be good. How did you guys feel about the frame rate and overall, and did you think that it seriously detracted from the game?
There was moments, but not, I wouldn't say overall. I would say maybe there was like maybe 2-3 times throughout the whole course of me playing it to where I was just like, oh man, this is bad. But it was never enough to where it was like fully taking me out of it or like detrimental to it, I guess.
I feel like in the Divine Beast missions is when it really hit me. There were some moments in regular gameplay that just the game didn't like Karak Forest again. Doesn't like Karak Forest. But overall, didn't bother me too much.
Yeah, same. I think it was fine. I mean, like Tyler said, here and there is like, but majority, and I really have an issue. I'm also not a guy that gets too brought down by frame rate issues here and there.
Have any of you tried multiplayer?
I did actually a lot of co-op, like all the way through. Until the final mission, I did with a friend, which was fine.
Oh man, for me, for the most part, I didn't mind the frame rate at all. I thought the frame rate was pretty distracting in the very first mission, but strangely enough, it was only the first mission that I found it super distracting.
That's
Other
what I
than-
heard from a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, other than
I
that,
did.
I didn't really have any issue with it.
I was just gonna say the one and only time that I did co-op was on handheld mode, and it was the Farron Woods mission, and
Oh,
I
no.
literally could not see anything.
Yeah. So I played a little bit of co-op back when the demo came out, just to test it and see if it was playable, and it was kinda a little bit. Had the same problem as Tyler, even on the TV. Kind of hard to see with split screen. I've never been a big fan of split screen, so that kind of turned me off right away. Especially because it's like a horizontal split screen, and I hate that even more than like a sideways split screen. And yeah, the frame rate not great at all, and especially like when explosions are going off, it didn't like that, like exploding barrels. So
Yeah.
not the greatest experience with
No, yeah.
co-op, but I
Split screen
have
wise.
heard from people that they enjoyed it. So apparently,
Yeah.
Split screen wise,
It gets you by.
Like, there's some missions I want to take in the environment, like Call of Citadel and
yeah.
being near Hyrule Castle. I was like, I want to just scope around for a second. But split screen made it way harder to be able to fully take in the environment, kind of. So
Yeah.
there was that.
Yeah, for me. Sorry, go Tyler.
I was just gonna say, Age of Calamity is not really a game that I would want to play multiplayer, anyways.
Yeah, for me, the multiplayer was almost unplayable, and I'm not a frame rate snob at all. I really don't care for the most part. Well, I guess that's not true because I was kind of complaining about Link's Awakening's frame rate, but I guess I just kind of expected it out of Dynasty Warriors spinoff. Like that's just how they are. Whether that's good or bad is up for the individual, but I was expecting it, so it didn't bother me when it turned out that the game was often sub 30. But multiplayer, even for me, it was a little bit too rough. It was hiccup. Especially, maybe it's because the only level I tried split screen in was the very first one, which is pretty laggy even on single player. But yeah, it was pretty it was pretty unplayable for me. I tried it with my girlfriend, and she's not much of a gamer, so she is really not used to low
no.
FPS, and she had a really hard time with it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then certain characters, the lag was real, like Teba. If you want to basically borderline crash your game, Teba's your guy.
Teba, Impa.
Impa got super laggy.
Mhm.
Revali often got laggy, and a couple others. But yeah, for the most part, I thought the frame rate wasn't that big of a deal. I understand people who are upset by it, but I thought it was fine.
So I think that's about it. We've been going for like over 2 hours now.
Whoa.
Had a lot
Wow.
to talk about. But closing thoughts. Anything? Final things to say? What would you say about the game? Yeah, I kind of already said that, but yeah.
We should.
we talk about the music.
Oh yeah, the music.
The music is good. It's really good. Go listen to it.
Yeah,
music's
listen
incredible.
to the OST. You'll figure it out.
It has
Listen to
one of the best,
Revali's song. Forget all the other ones.
it has one of the best OSTs in the entire series.
Yes.
Yeah, super solid for sure.
It basically, okay, so I just made a video about music in Breath of the Wild 2. It basically is what music in Breath of the Wild should have been if it was a classic game, but at the same time, I don't think it should have been because it's a whole complicated thing. But for what it was really good. Yeah. hmm If Breath of the Wild was a classic Zelda, that's what the music in it should have sounded like. There you go.
It makes me really hope that Breath of the Wild 2 will have ambient or regular music as a toggleable feature.
I feel like it should just like
That'd be nice.
implement both too.
200 hours into Breath of the Wild, and I'm pretty tired of there being basically no music. I literally just put podcasts on when I play it now.
Same.
'Cause I'm, the effect of the ambience has worn off on me now. So I'm for Breath of the Wild 2. I would be much appreciative if there was some form that we could have more music, even if it's optional. A Sheikah Slate radio.
I'd be down for that.
Should we give the game a rating each?
Ooh.
I like that.
I don't
That's kind
I
of
don't know
tough.
if I can even do ratings. I can't remember. Did I rate Paper Mario the Origami King? I don't know. I'm just gonna say I really enjoyed the game, and yeah, I would give it very good rating. Play, should play, must
Completely
play.
agree. Completely agree.
I have an
So-
extra segment that I like to throw onto the end of these. It is the classic. If you save the CEO of Nintendo's life and you can change one thing about the game,
Car is at it
what
again.
would it be? Yep.
could
Getting into
change
trouble,
one
running
thing?
into traffic. You can change one thing. What would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
For me, it would probably be the choice to split the timeline. I would just make it
Fair.
a straight prequel.
I think it's just what I said earlier. It's a really weird thing. I don't know any game would have ever done this, or at least some kind of workaround to being able to not just go right back to where you had before. In the beginning of a fight or in the middle of a fight, be able to choose want to go farther back in the level. That'd be really nice.
With my limited playtime, I would probably say just the frame rate, because the demo was kind of what they really showed off first things first, and that was decently laggy. I mean, it wasn't unplayable by any means, but
The laggiest
it's
level in the
definitely
game was the first one they showed.
yeah, yikes.
Pretty rough.
It just, without much of a different opinion, I suppose that would be the one thing that I would really want them to iron out.
I really don't know what mine would be. I would like for I think Nehru was talking about this earlier. If it wasn't him, forgive me, whoever's point this was. But it would have been nice to see some more like cutscenes with the other champions
Yeah.
and kind of you do go into their stories a bit more than they did.
Yeah, there were so many cool things about the champions that were hinted at that I was kind of hoping we were going to get to see.
I
Like-
throw Astor into that category too.
Yeah,
Totally.
likewise.
Like
That's mine
Urbosa.
actually, Astor.
Urbosa in Breath of the Wild, there's like a little Gerudo girl that talks about the time that Urbosa saved the village from a ghost, I think it was. And I was like, that could have been a really cool
Ooh.
side mission for Urbosa. I think a lot of that kind of stuff would have been cool for them to incorporate.
And then yeah, Astor was mine. I feel like severely underused. Could have been great. Could have been pretty cool. Could have expanded upon him and made him more than one-faced villain. And yeah, we even talked about that earlier, how they could have done that in so many different ways. But I don't think they're ever going to at this point, and kind of disappoints me. So yeah.
Full agree.
And I think that about covers it.
Yeah. Feels good.
We had our closing thoughts. We talked about story, gameplay, everything. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed talking about it. I did.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Totally.
And do you guys want to plug your channels or some social medias or anything?
snap.
Go ahead.
I want to plug Xeno's streams. I've been stopping by the streams semi-frequently recently. I
Nice.
know you're here for the Zelda stuff and you're here for like the theory content and all that stuff. Trust me, you just try it out, okay?
You know
Xeno
what's
Gamer
interesting
streams,
though?
It's good stuff.
We're actually starting the Zelda game soon. So
There you go. Even more reason.
Bam.
You got no
Perfect.
excuses now.
yeah.
Chaos.
Also, Newborn Killick on YouTube. Go check him out. He does the good stuff. Not just Zelda stuff too, other stuff too now. So
No,
Good
you
stuff.
chased them all away now.
it's just Zelda. Go subscribe.
100% Zelda. I can't even lie. Okay, anyway.
I'll break the ice and start the selfish self-plugging. I'm Nehru. I just released a whole bunch of Age of Calamity videos. I released 4 of them. One of them is about whether the game is canon. So if our back and forth on that interested you, go check that one out. Another is about what Breath of the Wild 2, if Age of Calamity could change Breath of the Wild 2. That's interesting. Go check it. Another one's about whether Nintendo lied about the game or not. So I got lots of spicy hot takes recently, and I have one more Age of Calamity video coming out. So go check those out.
So for me, if you don't know, I am Edible Incredible. So I've just done streaming and videos all through YouTube, and it is, I would say, a 98% Zelda channel. I've been saying this forever, but I want to work in some anime stuff, and specifically, if you're an Attack on Titan fan, I want to start working that in for the final season. But for this wise, I love to do theory stuff. I've been doing it as of late. Of course, in ranking Zelda videos, and whenever there's news, I love to hop on that too sometimes. I guess something that's more popular that I've been seeing people touch on lately, or at least comment for lately, since Age of Calamity is like most canon Z-Link, if you want to see that. That's something that's been getting traction. But yeah, I'll say 98% Zelda dude who creates scripted videos and streams.
Edibles shipping videos are amazing.
Thank you.
Go check out Edible.
They are really good.
Edible
Much
Incredible.
appreciated, guys.
And Tyler, tell them all about yourself. Life story.
Well, at age 6, I was born without a face.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
No, my name's Tyler Townsend. I have a channel here on YouTube as well, mostly Zelda related, but we cover some other topics and stuff, just depending upon if it's a game that I like. I would, if we're gonna shout something out, I have one Age of Calamity video right now, and it's a video talking about the Hollows and what exactly they are.
Ooh.
And it's very good.
Thank you. You don't have to say that. So thank you.
But
But
it's
yeah,
true.
aside from that, I would also like to plug the Sheikah Squad Twitter. Go follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.
We need
Oh,
more
shoot.
followers on Twitter. Go inflate our egos.
We need to use that more too.
Yeah.
Twitter.com/Sheikah Squad, but spell it correctly.
Unlike us.
Oh my god. Oh, really realizing that, I was like, wait, did I spell it wrong? I was like, wait, spell right? wait, what?
I feel like no matter who made the Twitter, it would have been spelled wrong.
That was there for a couple months or whatever it was too. No one said anything.
I just have dyslexia, so there was no chance of me ever spelling it right.
I before E, except on everything, because apparently that's not right.
It is such a weird word.
Okay, so I think that about draws it to a conclusion, everybody. We're good. Yeah. Check out all these lovely people here. They do great stuff. And yeah, I will see you guys soon with more videos. Hope you enjoyed these discussions, and have an amazing, fantastic, beautiful day. See you later. Bye.
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 Take care.
Bye.